Good evening from STV News. I'm John Mackay. If you're just tuning in, Catherine, the Princess of Wales, has revealed that she is receiving treatment for cancer. There has been intense speculation about her health since she had abdominal surgery in January. According to a statement released tonight, doctors found cancer following that operation and she is now receiving chemotherapy. We can cross to our senior reporter Gordon Cree at the Palace of Holyrood House in Edinburgh, the King's official Scottish residence. So Gordon, what more can you tell us?
Well, it's fair to say that this statement, which was released from the Princess in just the last few minutes, will have taken everyone by surprise. Earlier this week, pictures appeared of her and William at a farm shop, the sort of image that would normally be considered private. Until then, she hadn't been seen in public since the Christmas period during the Royals' festive season at Sandringham. Now, back in January, when we were told she had had abdominal surgery, it was said that it was not related to cancer. However, in tests carried out after the operation, cancer was discovered. We're not being told what type, and she's been having what's described as preventative chemotherapy. Now, we're told she's in good spirits and is focused on making a full recovery, and only then will be able to resume public duties. Well, the news was broken by the Princess herself in a video released to the media this evening.
It has been an incredibly tough couple of months for our entire family, but I've had a fantastic medical team who've taken great care of me, for which I'm so grateful. In January, I underwent major abdominal surgery in London, and at the time, it was thought that my condition was non-cancerous. The surgery was successful. However, tests after the operation found cancer had been present. My medical team therefore advised that I should undergo a course of preventative chemotherapy, and I'm now in the early stages of that treatment.
Well, William and Kate, of course, first got together in Scotland more than 20 years ago now. They were students at St Andrews University, and since then a lot has been written about that period. And they have been back there since, visiting the town just a couple of years ago. The Princess's most recent visit to Scotland came in November with a series of engagements in Moray and Speyside. So this news about Kate comes after a difficult time for the royal family. It was just last month that Buckingham Palace went public with the news that the King himself was being treated for cancer. Since then, I've spoken to a number of people who themselves have or have had cancer, who said his openness had been a source of comfort to them. And you'd have to think the Princess's announcement today will strike a similar, very personal chord with many people. So that breaking news tonight, Catherine, the Princess of Wales, is being treated for cancer and will remain absent from public duties as she recovers.
Gordon at Holyrood House, thank you. And there will be more on that royal story in the ITN News at past. To the rest of the day's news in Scotland now, and a group of women forced to give up their babies for adoption in Scotland say the words in an official apology made 1 year ago lose their worth every day unless they're backed up with real action. Campaigners have written to MSPs highlighting the ongoing difficulties faced by people searching for answers about their relatives. The Scottish Government say addressing the harms caused by historic adoption practices remains a priority. Here's our Chief Reporter, Sharon Frew.
It was the first formal apology in the UK to the thousands affected by historic forced adoption practices in the 1950s, 60s and 70s.
I offer today a sincere, heartfelt and unreserved apology.
There are phrases in it that are really poignant and important. You know, what happened was cruel and unjust. So those words are very meaningful.
But decades on, mothers and fathers have no right to know the name of their baby or what happened to their child. Only adoptees can access identifying information. Campaigners have sent knitted booties to MSPs, highlighting what they describe as an ongoing injustice.
We lost a mother last month. She didn't know the identity of her daughter. She didn't know if her daughter had any grandchildren. And there's a sister there who doesn't know if she has any nieces or nephews. These connections are important connections for people, and we cut people off from being able to share that. We need to really be thinking about these people who 60, 70 years on don't know.
A year ago, commitments were made to develop specialist trauma counselling and to improve access to records. The Minister for Children and Young People says work is ongoing, both to establish what kind of support is needed and the practical aspects of accessing the right information.
Keeping these thoughts and feelings suppressed and just trying to cope with life with that in the background can be quite difficult.
Sharon Abernethy says peer support is helping her. She now works for the charity Health in Mind that has been given funding to create groups for both mothers and adoptees.
Every conversation I have with a mother adoptee or other family member, I feel very privileged, and I feel very inspired about the ways in which they have moved forward in their life.
But the numbers coming forward for help so far are low.
Some people might not recognise that what they've experienced is forced adoption, so that's another challenge that could be present and could be a barrier for people reaching out for support.
There are calls for an apology at a UK level, another step to officially acknowledging lifelong heartbreak. Sharon Frew, STV News.
A lack of engagement with social care during the pandemic cost the lives of the most vulnerable and the workforce, the Scottish COVID-19 inquiry has heard. Dr Donald McCaskill of Scottish Care said politicians followed stereotypes and were not interested in helping unless the NHS was involved. It comes as a group of care home relatives described not being able to give evidence at the UK inquiry as a kick in the stomach. Here's our political reporter, Laura Alderman.
Almost 4 years ago, these women came together with one goal: resuming meaningful contact with their loved ones in care homes. The COVID lockdown brought visiting to a halt. Many saw relatives through windows, while others never got a chance to say goodbye. Their group, Care Home Relatives Scotland, were hoping to give evidence at the UK COVID inquiry as it looks at the impact on the care sector. But
the applicant should not be designated as joint co-participants in Module 6, and I confirm that this is my final decision.
And it feels like all the effort that we put in hasn't been recognised, and it just makes it feel as if everything we've done in the past 4 years in the UK COVID inquiry's mind is null and void and it doesn't matter, so that's quite disheartening. It's a bit of a kick in the stomach, yeah.
I think it's missing the voice of the Scottish care home residents. The deterioration was a lot faster than it would have been because of the loss of routine. They were disproportionately impacted. You've got younger adults in care homes whose lives were dismantled. It's the consequences of the decision makings of people that didn't die, a profound effect on their lives and their relatives.
their lawyers, Thompsons, have already appealed the decision twice.
We would still hope that she would realise that we do have a contribution to make, and we've certainly a number of MSPs and so on and other government figures have reached out to us.
Today, a spokesperson for the UK COVID inquiry said individuals and organisations do not need core participant status to provide evidence. It added the inquiry is for the whole of the UK and will hear from a wide range of witnesses and experts. One place the group have given extensive evidence already is here in Edinburgh at the Scottish COVID-19 inquiry, which is separate but runs alongside the UK one. This will only be looking at policy areas controlled by the Scottish Government, but both inquiries have agreed to work together to share information. How politicians engaged with social care was examined today.
There were some who were open to learning, to listening and to understanding about the nature of social care, and we might want to talk about some of those. But there were others who swallowed assumptions, followed stereotypes, and to be truthful, were not that interested in a perspective that didn't have the NHS badge attached to it.
While both inquiries continue, so too does campaigning for Anne's Law. Named after Natasha's mum, it would guarantee access to a loved one in a care home for any future pandemics. Laura Alderman, STV News, Edinburgh.
The Scottish Government insists its targets on cutting child poverty remain realistic, despite figures showing little change in the past 12 months. More than a quarter of children were living in relative poverty last year. However, the Wellbeing Economy Secretary says the Scottish Government can reduce that to less than a fifth by next year. Charities are demanding both the UK and Scottish governments take concrete action. Our political correspondent Ewan Petrie reports.
Oh, what's Daddy Pig doing?
As well as their daughter, Christina and her husband have 3 other children, including a son with additional needs. Before the charity Children First stepped in to help, they felt trapped in their house and struggled with bills.
Both of us were trying our hardest and essentially it wasn't good enough. And, that's really heartbreaking. We have managed to get a grant for a disability pushchair. We can enjoy family outings together for a minimal cost, whereas before there were no family outings at all.
7 out of 10 children living in relative poverty are in a household where someone has a job. This charity helps families most in need.
We have seen a large increase in people who are in work poverty. When the wages don't go up but all the bills do and the cost of living increases, it's not rocket science, that's not going to work at the end of the month. So they may have enough to cover their bills but they've not got enough to put food on the table, put clothes in their kids' back, replace broken furniture.
Figures released this week show more than a quarter of children were living in relative poverty last year. That was up 30,000 on the previous year. The Scottish Government has set a target of reducing child poverty to 10% by 2030, with an interim target of 18% by next year.
Are your targets still realistic?
No, I think they are. I do, and I think that whilst it is an embedded problem, it's one that the government is absolutely determined to tackle. Tackling child poverty is one of our 3 core missions as a government. Those figures do demonstrate that the actions that we are taking, including, of course, the Scottish Child Payment, chief amongst them, is having an impact. But much like in work poverty, the job isn't done and we'll keep working on it.
The Cabinet Secretary was marking a record number of employers paying the real living wage. A welcome milestone, say charities, but more is needed.
People in Scotland want a society where we look out for each other. They want to end the injustice of poverty and in-work poverty. We all have a role to play on that. So we call on government at all levels to look at the concrete actions they can take towards that aim.
Campaigners now expect details from both governments on the levers they will use to cut poverty. Ewan Petrie, STV News.
With Scotland playing, there's always time for sport, Alan.
Indeed, John. Scotland are in the Netherlands and Steve Clarke is looking for a big performance from his players. Good evening. Scotland boss Steve Clarke says he may experiment with his team when they face the Netherlands tonight. It's the first of 4 friendly games before this summer's Euros. The head coach wants his players to be competitive and end their 5-game winless run. Ronnie Charters is in Amsterdam.
Well, you join us here at the Johan Cruyff Arena where the atmosphere is building and the countdown to kick-off is well and truly on as Scotland get set to face the famous orange jerseys of the Netherlands in the first of their 4 Euro warm-up matches. It's fair to say that the weather hasn't been great here today in the Dutch capital, very similar to what I imagine it is like back in Scotland. But for Steve Clarke and his players, it's all about the performances on the pitch as Euro 2024 ticks ever closer. And of course, here in Amsterdam, the Tartan Army have been out in force. At the moment, nothing can dampen the spirits of the Tartan Army. With less than 3 months to go until the Euros, just over 2,000 fans have made the trip to the Netherlands for the next stop on our road to Germany.
I mean, I've watched Scotland where there's been 7,000 in the ground at home and it's now getting better and, you know, it's only good things, you know.
No, we're one big family. If you can look, it's kids.
20 years we waited for this.
20 years.
The good thing is we're back on the big stage. You know, as everybody knows, every country we go to, they welcome us as the Tartan Army. They know we're there to enjoy ourselves. Party even after the result tonight, whatever way it goes, there'll be a party and we'll all be enjoying it.
The Scotland squad took in the city of Amsterdam this afternoon, a leisurely stroll before the match this evening. These players have 4 games left to impress before the start of the European Championship, and for Steve Clarke, tonight's match is a chance to experiment.
These are the kind of games where you can use that opportunity to try something that's maybe a little bit different. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. Maybe we have to readjust after we've seen it in action against the Dutch. But we just want to keep improving. There's no real secret to that. There's no short circuit. You just have to work as hard as you can every time you're together and respect your opposition and go out there and try to play as well as you can play.
In terms of results, Scotland are on a 5-game winless run. Defeats to England, Spain and France, followed up by draws against Georgia and Norway, have the squad determined to end that run this evening.
Definitely want to get back to winning ways. As you say, five games without a win. Holland are going to be a tough opponent, but I think we're in a good place. Coming back into camp, seeing everyone again, and there's a real good feel about the group.
In terms of the Netherlands, Ronald Koeman's side will provide Scotland their toughest test before walking out to face Germany in the opening game of the Euros.
I think Scotland is a strong team because, like Holland, they can play out of different systems. Maybe they will start with 5 at the back, maybe they will play 4-3-3 as a system, and that makes it always difficult for the opponent.
So as the Tartan Army do what the Tartan Army do best, it's now up to the players to put in a performance that matches their support. Ronnie Charters, STV News in Amsterdam.
And the match kicks off at 7:45. Now, the Women's League Cup final takes place at Tynecastle on Sunday, with holders Rangers facing Partick Thistle. It's a first ever cup final for the Thistle women's side, and striker Cara Henderson says they are full of confidence ahead of the historic occasion. Rangers' Chelsea Cornett picked up a winner's medal last season. She says the Ibrox side are determined to retain the silverware.
A cup final is what every player wants to play in. It's a game like no other. The feelings are like no other. So yeah, having had that taste for it once, I want it again. I want to retain that cup. We know that they're a good side. They're a hard side to play against, and they've proved that to us in the league before. But all focus is on us. This whole week we're going to prepare as well as we can.
We're full of confidence ourselves. We're a good team, and we've already sort of stopped them scoring once this season, so we're confident we can do it again. It is historic, it's a huge achievement for us all, but I think we can use it to sort of our advantage, and we know how big of a day it's going to be, but I think we can all rise to that occasion.
And Scotland's women's team kick off their Six Nations campaign away to Wales tomorrow. One final piece of football news. Brian Caldwell has been appointed the new Chief Executive of Motherwell. Caldwell previously held the same post at St Mirren, Ayr United and most recently Shrewsbury Town. That, folks, is all your sport tonight. I'll see you again on Monday. John.
Rahman, thank you. Now, Sean is here with the weather forecast.
A breezy morning will be followed up with a flurry of fresh delights for lunch. TUI sponsors STV Weather.
A very good evening to you. We've still got blustery winds as we head into tomorrow. Low pressure to the north of us. Lots of showers around as well. Much better on Sunday. A little bump here in the isobars. A ridge of high pressure coming in. So if you're wanting to pick a day during the weekend, it's best Sunday. Hopefully largely dry with few showers around. But lots of showers still tomorrow, especially northern and western parts. Fewer showers in the east. And then on Sunday, as I say, much better. Today, you probably had a bit of a mini disco at home. Hopefully you've got a remote control at least for the lights. On, off. With the lovely sunshine 1 minute, and then those dark clouds that have come in, those torrential downpours, and also some hail as well. And we hang on to those frequent showers tonight, especially northern and western parts. Snow over higher ground, the risk of some hail again in some of the showers, and actually quite a chilly night despite the fact we've got frequent showers. Temperatures will be down to about 1 or 2 degrees Celsius, so potentially some of the higher roads, possibility of some icy patches from those showers, especially where we get a little bit of hail at times through the night too. So tomorrow, not much different. The wind swinging more from a northwesterly to a northerly through the day. Hopefully by the end of the day, that means the showers becoming quite few and far between, but still very frequent through the first half of the day. Again, still the risk of some hail, snow over higher ground. Temperatures about 7 or 8 degrees, but coming down a few degrees in those showers. So it will feel quite chilly at times tomorrow, especially in that wind. But yes, a lot quieter on Sunday, drier, brighter, with highs of 11 degrees. Bye-bye.
TUI sponsors STV Weather.
That's all from us tonight. A reminder of our top story that Catherine, the Princess of Wales, is receiving treatment for cancer. The First Minister says he's saddened by the news and praying for her swift recovery. Our colleagues at ITN will have more on that breaking royal story immediately following this. From all of us, have a good weekend.